Hey guys, it's Savannah with Plant Savvy, and today I want to show you how to stake a monstera deliciosa, or really stake any plants. I just want to say why you would want to stake a plant, especially a climbing plant, and most of those are like philodendron, pothos, monstera deliciosas. They are, in the wild, they are climbing plants, so naturally they will get bigger and have bigger leaves, maybe more fenestration in those leaves, when you kind of recreate that natural habitat for them. And in doing that, you want to kind of train your monsteras or train your plant into climbing, and you'll really start to see a difference from a more juvenile leaf to a more adult looking leaf. So let's get into it. We are here with our monstera deliciosa. Let's get to repotting. First off, I want to say I'm going to take it out of the pot, and there are 2 plants in this pot right now. So this is one. It's going up right here. That definitely needs to be staked. And then here is another one right here. So I'm going to split it apart and then pot them back up in some better soil. Right now it's in some coco coir, and it works really great in greenhouse settings like this, but eventually we're gonna move this indoors, and so we'd want something that has some perlite, some orchid bark, just some good drainage for a tropical plant like this. So let's go ahead and take it out of the pot. I'm going to use this to kind of keep it from dirt getting everywhere. I just lay it down usually and try to lay it down on a part that maybe doesn't have a lot of plant situation happening. Try to be gentle, but again, plants are really resilient, so it's okay if something happens, but you want to try to not hurt it. So my tip is I try to kind of hit it on the bottom half of the planter, just kind of squeeze it and then gently flip it over and do that on the other side. That just kind of loosens it out of the pot, so you can kind of pick it up, grab it from its little hole, kind of wiggle it out there. If it's not wiggling, I'll just kind of keep squeezing it until it does. Monsteras have pretty intense aerial roots, these guys right here. So when they're in the pot, they'll kind of attach themselves to it. Okay, we're out. And this guy is so rebound. Check him out. Ramen noodles. Okay, so we're gonna separate it, and I feel like a lot of y'all are gonna be like, "You're hurting it!" Calm down, okay? I wanted to get some gloves. Don't judge my nails. I work with houseplants, and so they're constantly gonna look like shit, all right? Back off. All right, so now I'm just gently loosening the noodles. Get it all kind of loosey-goosey. You don't have to go too crazy, but I am trying to get some of this soil out, and we got to separate it. So normally I would just kind of, if I was just up potting this guy, I would just take him and kind of loosen up the roots that kind of started spiraling around here, and then pot him into a new pot, just because I don't want to mess with the root system that much. But a monstera is really hardy, so honestly, he'll be fine. And anyone in the comments will be like, "Oh my God, he won't be fine." He will be fine, okay? Okay, so now we're gonna see where I can separate it. Oh my gosh, there's a ladybug like stuck in here. Now this is kind of a tricky part. You just gotta try to find your opening when you're splitting up a plant. I'm gonna try to figure out where they're connected. If you're going for a specific look, like you want a singular plant that's a singular monstera that's climbing up the pole that does the situation, I usually try to separate them out because it's a lot easier to stake one up and control it that way. 2 is fine, but see, like the way, when you're working with monsteras, the best form of action when making them climb is when you have your pole, you want leaves on one side, aerial roots on the other. So this would be facing your window, and this would train all of the leaves to have that cascading effect climbing up versus them just all being wonky one way or another because of the light. So when you are staking, it's best to stake when you are repotting so that you can kind of manipulate the plant in the pot so that it is set up right, and so that as it continues to grow, you're training it to grow with aerial roots on the backside, leaves facing front. So it sometimes makes that difficult when you have multiple stems in there. So for this reason, that is why I'm separating them. But you don't have to separate them. Aerial roots are what they come off on the backside like this. These are like the root system in the soil. These are outside of the soil, and they attach to trees, your moss pole, your bamboo stake. This is what they use to attach to a tree in the wild, and they kind of hang down, and oh my gosh. Oh well, I don't know how long that's happened. The aerial roots, they can collect like nutrients from the air. They're basically just stabilizers. So it stabilizes a plant onto the tree. So if you're taking care of these and these feel stable, you're gonna have bigger leaves, more fenestration, everything. You're gonna break some roots when you do this, I'm just letting you know. You just wanna kinda split up the root system though, if you can. If not, it will grow back. It's not that big of a deal. One, two. And they both got about the same root system. So let's pot them up and stake them. To the lab! Just kidding, we're in the lab. The upper lip is starting to sweat. Do you like my shirt? Slingshot. Wow. I'm gonna keep them in the gallon pots because I don't like to go too much up on the up potting because you don't want too much space. They're gonna focus on growing roots for the next bit, and then we'll move on from there. Nursery pots. Okay, so when you're potting up, when you're staking, you want to pot with the stake in mind. So we have our guy, this guy in there. Let him sit there while I get my soil. Okay, into my soil, I'm adding some orchid bark as well as some orchid moss as well. This is not mandatory. I'll say this with all of my clients. As long as you just buy a little bit nicer soil, you really don't need to add in that much extra stuff unless you're wanting to really get into like soil sciences and all that kind of stuff. You don't have to go out and spend a whole bunch of money on a whole bunch of different stuff. I think that happens a lot in the plant community, and I don't want to do that. So it's not necessary unless you absolutely want to do it. Just get a little bit nicer soil. Like, I'm a really, really, really big fan of Fox Farm. Maybe you've got a local company in your area that works with some of the local greenhouses that makes some really good compost that mixes in with some, other stuff like that. Check out your local garden centers for maybe some local soil. There's just some that it's best to kind of spend a little bit extra, and it will be a lot better for you and your plant in the long run. Okay, moving on. When we are staking a plant, we're staking with the climbing situation in mind. So I placed it in the plant kind of like how I would want it to sit against the pole. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of layer on the bottom of our soil, add him in there. And then I'm going to take my pole. This is a little big, but it's gonna grow into it like this. Actually, no. Stake goes, you want it like this. So you want aerial roots in the back towards the stake, leaves up front. Eventually, as this plant grows, it's going to start growing like this, and you'll start to see the look of what you would see on the internet of what a monstera should look like. So eventually, it will start to train up this way. Now, a lot of people might come at me for this when it comes to stakes. If you want to use a moss pole, you're more than welcome to use a moss pole. I don't personally like using moss poles because I think a bamboo stake, a plank, a bamboo pole gets the job done, and you don't have to keep the moss consistently moist. If you're into moss poles, do your thing, girly. I support you. I just don't want to do it. So I'm just using some wood or a bamboo stake, literally anything. It gets the same job done. So then as you're holding it like this, you're just gonna fill around the base of it. And I try not to smush it in there. You just tap the sides. You don't want to ruin any of the beautiful aeration air pockets that you have in there. It also helps with like the orchid bark and the sphagnum moss that's also going in here as well. It's gonna help with that kind of tropical aeration and all that kind of stuff. So we're just filling her up. Okay, another important thing that I completely forgot about. You don't want to stick the plant in too low. These leaves right here, if they are too low in the pot, might end up rotting and dying away. Try not to stick it down too far like I did, but this is what I want to do and it will be fine. I'll be fine. You just want to stick it so that it's just sitting above the pot. All right, next we have to attach her to said pole for the whole system to even work. I've got it's just twine, some green twine. You can use this, or you can use plant Velcro. They have like Velcro stuff. It's on the screen now. Looks really good. Like that stuff, because then you could easily move it around and reuse it. That's really good stuff. You could honestly use literally anything you have around your house. Ribbon, if you're a croquet girly, whatever. Anything you like. Main thing about it is you don't want to stake it like this, holding onto a leaf. You want to stake around the actual stem, not the leaf. And place it right there, and then give it a good little tie. Again, this is why I like the Velcro, but my employee Kelly has the Velcro currently. Bruh. And then I'm also gonna tie one around the base too. And again, not tying on a leaf like this. No. You want to tie it around the base like this, and then wrap that all together. You don't have to be don't be too tight when you're tying it. You can be a little bit tight, but you don't want to suffocate, cause any lines or mechanical damage. Some taps. As this guy's a new leaf, so as this guy grows, you'll be trained up like this. And you'll have that quintessential Monstera deliciosa. But right now he looks a little bit sad, but he'll eventually be like this. After you repot, you want to make sure that you give it a good drink of water. Obviously, if the plant maybe had root rot or anything like that prior, you don't want to give it a drink, but because we just repotted it and the roots got a little bit attacked today, you do want to give it a good drink before you leave it for the day. Other than that, that's how you do it. If you have any questions, comment below or let us know. Happy planting, y'all. We did it.